Are you someone who has shied away from public speaking, thinking, I'm comfortable one on one? I don't really need to work on public speaking. That is actually not for me. Or maybe you have convinced yourself that you're effective the way things are, and you're not thinking that you might need to work on your communication skills. Consider that clear, powerful communication is the number one skill of successful people, no matter what profession, no matter what industry. It is one of the skills that every successful person has. Good evening. My name is Suzanne Hart, and welcome to Unstoppable Mindset. Our topic for today is one skill that is guaranteed to increase your income. This conversation is for you if you're a self-employed, a business person, an entrepreneur, if you're in sales, and you want to increase your income. This is definitely for you if you want to learn how to have more impact, influence, and leverage in your business. This is about many people to one versus just one-on-one communication. This is for you if you want to have a command of any room, any space that you walk into. So we're going to talk about speaking today, but we're not going to talk about it in terms of I am a speaker. We're going to talk about it as one of the top entrepreneurial skills that we all are required to master. So as you jump on, I'd love to say welcome, welcome, welcome. And what I'm going to ask you to do is what you usually do. As you come in, let us know who you are, where you're joining us from. Put your name in the comments section so we know exactly who we're talking to. And let us know what you do while you're living and who are you called to serve. Who is that divine client that you are meant to touch, move, and inspire? Also, as you jump on, let us know what brought you out tonight and if there's a question that you would like us to answer. And of course, get engaged in the conversation, comment, participate, ask your questions, send us love, all that beautiful stuff. If you're listening to the replay, #replay, and do the exact same thing. Let us know who you are, where you're joining us from, who you're called to serve, and what you do while you're living. Also, when you love what you hear, definitely put comments in the comment section. And you might be saying, but this is not live. I know, but I go back, and so do most of my presenters, go back and we review all the comments, we comment, we answer questions. So you definitely want to be part of the conversation. Why is this key? Because this is our networking opportunity. This is virtual networking. And I have seen many times where people have connected because someone had the courage to put their information, their digits, what they do in the comment section, and someone has sought them out and got into communication. This is definitely your opportunity to network. You never know who's watching. You never know who's listening. So let's jump into this conversation. As I said, our topic today is one skill that is guaranteed to increase your income. My name is Suzanne Hart. Welcome to Unstoppable Mindset. This conversation is for you if you want to have more impact, influence in any room that you enter. This is for you if you have the desire to increase your income and create more leverage. Now, I'm going to introduce my special guest. You know her as a social media strategist. I know her as my partner in crime, if you will. Please welcome back Taria Hodge.
All right, great evening. Thank you, Suzanne, for having me on. Oh my gosh, super excited for this conversation.
Me too. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. Super excited. Just enjoying it. And I'm sitting here listening to you cue up our conversation for tonight. And it's just taking me back and having me recall my own, journey with communication. So yeah, I'm super excited to unpack the call tonight.
So let's jump in. The first thing I want to talk about was when you hear the word speaking and when you hear the word public speaking or speaker, what was your first thought before you got all involved in this?
Oh my gosh. So I was that person, that they say that I think it's public speaking is the second fare only second to the fear of death. And
Yeah.
I could definitely identify with that. So I was that person who avoided like public speaking at all costs,
Wow.
hence, being the behind the scenes person. So you could give me anything to do behind the scenes. I would show up behind the scenes. I would work the computer, be the gadget widget person, but please do not ask me to step on the other side of the camera, or get up on a stage in front of people. Totally afraid of public
Mhm.
speaking.
You know, that was exactly my story. I remember my when I worked for someone, my boss would always encourage me to go out and speak and present on her behalf, and I'd be like, no, 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 I don't do that. My job is to stay here and
Yeah.
run the space, and you go out and you public speak. And when I got into network marketing, the saying was the person who owns the front of the room owns the city. And I
Hmm.
was like, well, that won't be me. It ended up being me, and it ended up being me at the front of the room. But the interesting thing was it took a lot of coaxing, because just
Hmm.
like you, I didn't see myself as a speaker, and I didn't understand the power of commanding a room, or just having a command over presentation skills, and just feeling comfortable. So I want to start with what has enhancing your communication skills done for you, and why do you think it's important for every entrepreneur, business owner, person who's self-employed to do?
Yeah. So here's one of the things that I had to learn on the journey is there's an easy way to do stuff and there's a hard way to do stuff, right? And so I spent a lot of time doing things the hard way, right?
Right.
And so when we talk about public speaking and we talk about the fear, of being able to speak in public, that fear will keep you in a little box and keep you limited. So one of the things that I've always heard, on this journey is the one to many model, right?
Yeah.
Being able to get your offer, your services, your presentation, even yourself, your business, your brand in front of as many people as you can. Well,
Yeah.
it's kind of hard for you to do that if you shy away from public speaking. So
Absolutely.
you could do things on a one-to-one, and that's what my life looked like for a long time, where I would, engage with potential clients and clients, on a one-on-one basis, meaning, being on the
Um,
phone or in person. Okay. And, and like I said, is that thing like, oh my gosh, I know that that is something that needs to be done, but didn't have the courage, to do it. And
mm,
and it's building my courage up to do it. And I remember the first time, one of the first times I took a speaker training program. It was absolutely mortifying because I think I hid out like for the 4 days of the program, thinking that they won't notice that I did not take the stage, right? And
yeah.
at the very last minute, we're like 20 minutes to close out the program, and someone said, Taria did not take the stage. And they called me to the stage. And I remember I just stood there and I opened my mouth to speak. And instead of words, tears came out my eyes, right? And it was that thing like, wow, what is it that's blocking me,
Mhm.
from doing this? What is it that I need to do, in order to get over this hump? And
Yeah.
so thus the journey, began. Like, how can I make this, a little bit easier on myself to do? And with that, communication, but definitely a lot of preparation. And I think that that's the thing that a lot of people underestimate is
Mhm.
the preparation part. So really great communicators, they make things look effortlessly and seamlessly, but behind the scenes and in the background, there's a lot of work and a lot of preparation that sometimes they don't speak about.
So speak a little bit about the work in terms of, because I have learned that most people tell me I hear people say I'm a speaker, I speak, I train, and when it comes time to it, what they do is they put something together, they put together a presentation, but they haven't really honed that skill or worked on that skill.
Mhm.
And they so what ends up happening is they go to the stage nervous, they
Mhm.
go to the front of the room anxious, and whether it's 10 people, whether it's your 3-minute presentation in front of a group of people, BNI is what comes to mind, whether it is a small presentation to at a lunch and learn, all those different things. And I watch so many people, that's the only time they speak. So talk a little bit about preparation.
Oh, yeah. So preparation could be so many things, right? I think the beginning part of preparation, is just preparing to do it. And so one of the things that I share with people, and I said this today, just on a call that I had with a colleague, like I am not the wing it person. Okay. And so definitely, there are some people out there, they're absolutely so charismatic that they could, go out there and wing it. The wing it, no, is not Taria. And one of the things that the person actually said to me, well, doesn't that limit you? I like to feel free, and I like to have fun, and I like to be spontaneous, right? And so when I talk about first this level of preparation, because like I said, preparation is many different levels. Well, this level of preparation is giving yourself, a structure, and having a structure is like, okay, this is what I'm gonna, talk about. Can you visualize your opening? Can you visualize a talk? Do you see yourself going through it? Or do you actually, have notes or little cues, right? Not
Mhm.
to say that you have to write a whole script and read the entire script, but do you know when you open up your mouth to
Yes.
speak exactly what you're going to say so you could be coherent when you say it and people could receive the information? I think that that's the best thing. Sometimes we want to talk, but it's not just about us and what we want to say, but how well are people receiving the
Yeah.
information that we're putting out there, right? And so it takes practice and preparedness in order to do that. And so the second level, what I found is that yes, you do have to give yourself the opportunity, to crash and burn. And I'm just gonna say that,
Been
right?
there.
So yeah, so you have to, and there's a saying that I say, you have to be willing to suck at it until you get great at it. And then a lot of times, unfortunately, we suck on those big stages, right? And that's not the place that you want to show up not looking prepared. Right. So, how are you giving yourself the opportunity, to practice over and over again, create your own stage and allow yourself to get better? So as the bigger opportunities arrive, then you're more confident, you show up like you desire to show up, and then
Mhm.
you're able to take your audience on that journey that you want the audience to go.
That is so true. And people look at me, and I look like the wing it girl. And because I'm known to take the stage without notes. I know I'm known to take the stage without anything other than Suzanne. And people think I wing it, and I say no, 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 no. One is I have a very clear talk structure.
Mhm.
Two is I practice, and I go back to tell people that when I started presenting, I presented every day
Mhm.
for 4 years.
Yeah.
Monday to Friday, 4 years, present, 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 present. And so I have a talk structure that's ingrained in me. I know I have a I live in story. So I know the story that I want to enroll my audience in. And I don't mean story as in necessarily storytelling, but every presentation for me is a story. And
Yes.
I'm like, where am I taking them? What's the picture I'm painting for them? How am I going to enroll them? All those different things. And it takes practice. And I think one of the things I want to talk about is presenting has some key components. And when people say to me, well, I speak, I go, there's a difference between talking in front of the room and having
Mhm.
intentional presentation.
Yeah.
And I tell people you first have to connect with your audience, right? Then you have to earn the right to present anything to them. Then you have to enroll them in a vision that's possible. And then you get the opportunity to make an offer, and then you sell.
Yeah.
And so it is a process, and that process is, I'll say, money.
Mhm.
And so I wanted just to ask you to share, how has just having a talk structure increased your selling, increased your sales process, whether it be one-on-one, one to many? How has that benefited you?
Yeah, so the first thing, having the talk structure took a lot of pressure
Yeah.
off of me, right? And just being able, like you said, to know, how, not just what you're going to say, but how you're going to say it, how everything lines up in the process. And for me, once I understood it, it became so simple. It's like, oh, okay, this is how you enroll, this is how you connect, and this is how you take people on that journey. And then at the end, you wrap it up, you put a nice little bow on
Yeah.
it, right? And that's how I look at the structure. But what the structure also did for me is give me an opportunity to bring more of my personality, to the conversation. So what used to happen for me before, I'm in my mind,
Hmm.
right? And I'm not really focused in being present in
Yeah.
the conversation because I'm running ahead and I'm so nervous. Like, oh my gosh, what am I going to say next? What am I going
Hmm.
to say next? And I'm not present to the conversation, or I'm trying to anticipate what a person is going to say in the conversation so I could have the correct response. But once I, understood the talk structure, is just like, oh, okay, I could just plug these things right here. It's a whole lot less, for me to remember, because I was that person too who, would have opportunities to speak and, pack so much technical stuff, right? And the pressure comes when I'm trying to remember and memorize all of this technical stuff. And what if I mess up and all of this, rather than being my authentic self? Because I know this stuff, right?
Hmm.
So just being my authentic self and being present in the conversation, whether it's a one-on-one, or
Hmm.
whether I'm doing a training or when I'm doing a presentation, and just have fun with it. And then it also brings that relatedness to the audience. So once the audience is like, oh, okay, I get it, you made that so simple. Before, I could tell when I lose people, like right over their head.
And this is and one of the things I want to really highlight for everyone listening is, people think that when you we're talking speaking, we're talking in front of a big room.
Hmm.
But I think you use the same talk structure whether I'm one-on-one or whether I'm in front of a group. And so talk about, less is more,
Oh yeah.
and rambling versus presenting.
Yeah. So it's so interesting that you said less is more. So one of the things that I committed to do over the past couple, it's been a couple years now since I made the commitment, to step from behind the scenes and actively go after, more speaking engagements, for my business. And it's really interesting how before I used to think that doing an hour talk was so hard.
Hmm.
Okay. And then, I figured out like, oh yeah, this is the structure. This is what we're gonna do, and we don't have to pack all of this stuff, just to fill the space of an
Mm-hmm.
hour. And I think that that's what a lot of people tend to do, is that they look at the time and they say, oh, you know what I'm saying? I have to overwhelm the audience with information so I
Yeah.
could keep talking for an hour. And you don't have to do that. Not even necessarily, you don't have to do that. You just have to know, like, in this time that we're together, what is it that I want the audience to take away? And then you give.
Let's stop there for a
Mhm.
moment because this is so key. Because I know for myself before I started really honing this craft of speaking and communicating and so on and so forth, I was busy giving people information,
Mhm.
and I was busy uncomfortably attempting to sell them.
Yes.
And when I started really looking at speaking and the structure behind speaking and the structure behind sales and being really intentional, I began to realize that I had to find ways to talk to pain,
Mhm.
talk to benefits, to find ways to meet the audience where they were at in the challenges that they were facing. And little of what I did had to do with giving them um, information
Yeah.
that really had to do with, let me teach you right now.
Yeah.
I really had to learn to enroll them in the possibility of moving beyond their challenge, moving beyond their pain, and letting them know that I had the ability to help them move.
Yeah.
And I get exactly where you're sitting right
Yeah.
now.
And
And that's so different than what most people come in. Most people come in and they're like, let me show you the numbers, let me show you the this, let me show you that. And it's almost like a canned presentation that not necessarily has a lot to do with the person sitting in front of them.
so here's what's really cool that I learned, right? Is to ask the questions first to check the temperature as to where your audience is. So I
Mhm.
used, like you said, I used to be that person who came with the presentation and came with the numbers, and it's almost like you're making an assumption
Yeah.
that everyone inside of the room has that same pain or has that same struggle, right? What became really freeing was to ask the questions first. Okay,
Mhm.
and check the temperature, of the audience. So then that way you're able to give them what they need. So it really makes no sense, to go down a rabbit hole, in a conversation that nobody really is interested in, right? Or it's not relevant. That's the word that I should be
Mhm.
using. It's not relevant, to them, at this time in the moment for where they are and where they desire to be. The better conversation is to find out where are they really, what are the struggles, what are the pain points, and how can I speak to that. And once I found like the secret sauce, on how to do that, like I said, it takes the pressure off because I'm not guessing, trying to figure out where someone is. And I think we do that a lot of times, even on one-on-one conversations. Like you have a discovery call and you're so busy trying to, you know, tell people what you could do, for them, you totally miss like where they are.
Mhm.
And going back to less is more, I've learned if you get them talking and you get them to tell you exactly where they're sitting, the pain, what would life look like for them after the problem has been solved, then, all you got to do is say, well, okay, like this is how we're going to get there, right? And I'm the person to help you through it. I get it. I've been there, right?
Yeah.
And I'm going to help you through it. And then it becomes easier to enroll.
So true. So true. Talk a little bit about being present. And I know, for anyone who works with me, I'm like PDR, practice, drill, rehearse. PDR, practice, drill, rehearse. I want a video today. I want to see what you're doing. And I'm sure they're like, what? on earth is wrong with this woman? However, down the road, what they begin to see is they've practiced, drilled, and rehearsed, so they've internalized stuff.
Mm-hmm.
What ends up happening is they're present. And so, talk a little bit about the power of not having to think about what you're going to say because you have done the work before you presented. So you can be present with the person sitting in front of you, present with the few people or the group that you're talking to.
Yeah. So I love the practice, drill, and rehearse, the PDR. Okay. Because there's definitely something to be said about repetition. And, for anyone who is out there that's desiring to take their communication to the next level, like you definitely have, to give yourself the space to
Mm-hmm.
do that. Like, don't wait for someone else to give you the space. You create the space. And I love even with us how we talk and you share your story about having to do a conference call like every morning. Okay. And that was your opportunity, to PDR, practice, drill, and rehearse.
Yeah.
My platform was, starting the show. Okay. And giving myself the opportunity, to be able to say, oh, okay, this is what I want to communicate. This is how I'm going to communicate it. Oh, and there are times, and let me just say this, there are times, when I have totally did like an episode and I sit and I'm like, oh, I didn't like how that went.
Yeah. I didn't like how that landed.
Yeah, I didn't
Or,
like
or it
how,
didn't land.
yeah, right. Yeah. What happened, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you become aware, you become aware of it. But the good news is, you're going to do it again.
Yeah.
Okay. And so as you do it again, then you get better. Perfect example. One of the things that I talked about today, like I said, I had some really great conversations today. One of the conversations that I was sharing was when I started to go through my rebrand.
Mm-hmm.
And I, started with the brand Serve, Share, Shine. It's of course it's foreign because it's new.
Right.
And I remember like the first couple of times, like saying the introduction and introducing the brand felt so uncomfortable for me because it was new. And in my mind, I'm like, oh my God, does this make sense? To, anyone, are they really getting it? Whatever. But as I continued in the conversation, the beautiful thing is now I hear people giving back the same languaging, okay, to me, and I'm able to identify them as, wow, these are my people,
Yeah.
right?
Yes. Totally.
But it's only possible when you give yourself the opportunity, to practice, to say it, and not only say the words, but how you say the words. Am I making a connection here? What do I need to change? What do I need to adjust?
So you brought me right to the other thing I want to talk about. You know me, I'm a love of language,
Mm-hmm.
and I work with people a lot around their language and what it communicates, and being very very intentional
Mm-hmm.
about the language you use. And so, and the reason I'm breaking it down is part of my goal tonight is to let people know that whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you're self employed, all these pieces apply to you the
Yeah.
minute you step in front of a person, the minute you step in front of an audience, the minute you step in front of a lunch and learn, you go out somewhere. And so I want to talk to you because I've worked with this with you in terms of precise, intentional language, but also language that evoke emotions, language
Mm-hmm.
that uses pictures, and language that's unique to your brand. So talk a little bit about how that has impacted for you.
Oh yeah, so and we I think we've coined it as emotional branding,
Right.
right? So that's the term around it. So it's one of those things that was so interesting to unpack, and I have to talk about this from the social media perspective, right? And from a marketing perspective, because I think it's the biggest shift that I've seen in marketing. And so, of course, when, I took marketing, in school, they teach you about your demographics
Yeah.
and to teach you how to identify your demographics. And so it's these, you know, stoic things like age, gender, even how much money people make, where they look, where they live, all of that stuff. But the question really becomes, does those things give you a snapshot of who your divine client is? And I love, as we started to unpack this, looking at what we define as our divine clients. And I think that that was huge for me, because when I look at my business, I want my business to be filled with
Yeah.
people that I enjoy working with, the
Mhm.
people that, they're on my mind. Okay, so they're not making me lose sleep, but I wake up every day with them on my
Thinking
mind,
about
excited, right, to see, where else we could go. What's, like you said, what's the possibilities, right? How can we continue to grow? And that was a big shift for me.
yeah.
And to identify who those people were or who they are, and to put the language
Yeah.
to it, and then start to speak that language into the
And
marketplace.
and
So,
speaking to them.
and speak into them. And the thing that was so interesting, it became less and less of a struggle to get the right clients. And one of the things I used to say is that, some, if you have a revolving door in your business, meaning clients come and go,
Mhm.
right? Like so fast it makes your head turn, like you have to stop and think about that. So how do you use, or how do you first find the languaging that calls for those people? And I think for some, it's a little scary,
Mhm.
because we've been taught to think of the big numbers and to get the people in droves, right? So the question really becomes, can you make the shift, right? To say, you know what? It might not be a million people, right? It might be 100, it might be 500, it might be whatever the number is, but these are your divine people.
This is your
This
niche
is your
niche.
right. And you're able to take those people, on that transformational journey. And I think that that's so important at this time, you know, um, in marketing, because what people are looking for is that experience. And so we talked a little bit in the beginning about information and packing information. Yeah, there was a time where you would look at your competitors and you figure the way how I'm going to, do more than my competitors or outshine quote unquote competitors, right? Is that I got to prove and I got to give all of this information. People aren't looking for that
Mhm.
anymore. What
Yeah.
they desire is the experience. So, how can you communicate from the very beginning? And when I say the very beginning, it's even before we know people are checking this out. So,
Yeah.
what would that experience be?
Be
What's that experience that they're going to get when they first come across us and they first come across our brand, that makes them want to be connected and makes us be sticky and attractive?
and it really is in language. I remember presenting in Toronto, and it was the first time. It was a number of years ago, and it was the first time I really kind of coined this thing, the emotional brand. And I was like, I know my people. And I remember at the beginning of my presentation, I said to the audience, I work with hardworking, result driven super achievers. You're the first to arrive, the last to
Yeah,
leave. You're the bottom liner. People can
yeah,
count on you. You are the get it done person. you're overworked, you feel underpaid, and you know you're not living in your brilliance. You're the person who believes you got more to give, but you just haven't figured out how more looks. And as I said that, I could see people going, right? And I remember when I finished my presentation, I had people coming up to me going, "Oh my gosh, you were so talking to me. I'm that hardworking, over underpaid super achiever." And they just kept coming. And I remember that day I think I picked up 5 clients, and one of them was like, "You know me. I'm gonna hook my wagon to yours." And she's still a client today.
Yeah.
5 years ago. And I joke with her, and she goes, I'm not going anywhere.
Right.
And it really is, because it had nothing to do with her age,
Mm-hmm.
very little to do with what she did for a
Right.
living. It had very little to do with male or female, because my clientele are almost, it's kind of interesting, because my one-on-one clients, I'm at a 50-50 split right now. It had nothing to do with those things that were taught. It had everything to do with their lived experience and the emotions they were walking with.
Yeah.
And I said to them, I know you because I know me. And so I know you because I know what it's like to feel overworked, underpaid, not appreciated. And I want to be valued. I want to be heard. I want to be seen.
Exactly.
And I want to be living into my potential. And so I started that language. I started becoming so intentional
Yeah.
with that language. And people were like, I hear you.
Yeah.
I hear you.
Yeah, and it's so key when you're able, to speak, because you touch them here and you awaken, that desire, in them. So it's like you let them know, hey, I get it, I see you.
Yeah.
And I think that that's the first thing, is I see you. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then the second part of it, like that used to be me too.
I know you. Like,
Yeah.
I see you and I know you.
I see you and I know you. And now, I'm here. And so now I'm willing to reach back, and bring you here too. And I think that yes,
Yeah.
that's the beauty
I
of
know
it.
the pathway. Yeah.
Yes.
Talk a little bit about confidence. Talk a little bit about posture. Talk a little bit about just who you be as you do this. Because I know for myself that the more I spoke and the more I PDR'd, it was almost like I grew in height. I grew in swagger. I grew like I was like I was commanding places, and not in an arrogant way.
Mm-hmm.
The way that I knew it was almost like I knew in my being who I was called to serve. I knew in my being that my messaging would land. And I also had an ease taking the stage. Remember, 4 years of an hour call,
Mm-hmm.
5 days a week. So when I talk about PDR, I tell people I take it seriously. The time to practice a talk is not when your money's on the line. The
Right.
time to practice a talk is when you just going out and saying, let me nail this, because today is the day, and I'm PDRing. So talk about posture.
Yeah, so before I get into that, I'm going to share with you something that recently happened to me. So I had the opportunity to speak at an event, and one of the things that I love to do is not just show up at the event because I'm speaking at the event, right? But just pop in, to all the other speaker rooms and all that stuff. And I remember one of the speakers, the presenters, was doing a sales training.
Mm-hmm.
In part of his training, he was doing a DISC assessment.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought it was very interesting that he was looking at the people who were in the room and how they showed up in the room and figuring out where they were at this assessment. So when he came to me, he actually pegged me as an extrovert, right? And it tickled me so, because I'm like, by no means am I an extrovert. I'm
Mhm.
actually an introvert,
Yeah.
by nature. And what he said to me was very interesting. He says, I have to do a call with you because I have to find out what your secret is.
Mhm.
And I smiled, right? And it's practice,
Yeah.
right? And one of the things that I've learned is, when you practice and you know what you're talking about, you have your talk structure, it allows for you to bring more of yourself,
Yeah.
to the stage. And so one of the things, that I've learned a long time ago is that there's a time for you to turn it on. And so sometimes as speakers, we have to know when to turn it
Oh,
on.
yeah, baby. Yeah, for sure.
Okay. And so if you don't have that type of awareness, and you don't create that space, for you to do that, then you miss those opportunities. And what it said to me was, we really don't know how people perceive us, you know when we're on stage, or when we have the opportunity to communicate with them. So it's like, what's your communication going to be like? And so it was actually, tickling for me to think, like,
Yes.
it's like, oh my God, you're an extrovert, this is how you show up, and I saw you in another place and you're exactly the same way. I'm like, no, really, by nature I'm introverted, but I do understand that this is part, of my business, and I have to bring my full self, to this arena. So
Yeah.
I can't, even though it's not my presentation, right? I can't show up less than. I have to know when to
And
bring.
that's so key. Like you got to show up and shine using your words.
Yes.
Someone, one of the person, I don't know who it is. She says, "How many days a week?" I was like, "Yes, 5 days a week for
Yep.
4 years, Monday to Friday, every morning." I think the call was I think it was 8 till 9, 9 till 10. It might have moved, but yeah, I was committed,
Yeah.
and I figured if I could move people on a conference call, I could move people in front of the room, and
Yes.
it just built my posture. I want to talk a little bit about listening, because
Mhm.
one of the things that I don't think people get when you practice, right? So when you do the 5 days a week, a little bit every day, I'm just going to drop a presentation. I'm going to practice a presentation. I'm going to practice my talk, whatever it is.
Mhm.
They don't. I think most people don't really make the connection between your ability to listen. And I know when I teach sales, what the biggest and most difficult thing to do is to keep people out of their head,
Mhm.
right? And I go, and how I test it is, I'll when people are when someone, I have people role play, and I'll say, what did she just say, and what did she mean? And most people couldn't tell me what the person said because they
Yeah.
weren't present in the moment, because they were now PDRing
Yeah.
when it wasn't the time to PDR. They were now, and so the other thing that is so powerful is that when you practice, you are able to be so present
Yeah.
and so in the listening of the other person that magic happens. So I know that that's something that's happened for you. So talk a little bit about what it's done for just your ability to connect
Oh
with
yeah.
your clients as you do a sale, as you do a discovery call, as you do those things.
Yeah, so I'm gonna share with everyone. I was giving a challenge probably about 2 years ago by another mentor, of mine, and she says, one of the things that I want you to do is that I want you to take all of your calls on video. And I was like,
What?
That's not why I do this, right? I do this so I could sit in my PJs. You know that, right? That's the perk, you
Habit.
know. But she issued that challenge. And what was really interesting is that I took on the challenge. And what I learned that there is a different level of listening when you're on a phone call versus a different level of listening when you are on a video.
Oh yeah.
Okay. And then this was even before all of this stuff with COVID, right? And so just being in that state of being present. Okay. And I think what you're saying is so true because sometimes we passively listen,
Mm-hmm.
right? We passively listen, and what we're trying to listen for is the little cues where we should jump in the conversation,
Oh,
because
they
this is
paused, right?
but this is what we've been taught. We've been taught that sales is always about the close, right? And so sometimes subconsciously what we're doing is we're listening for objections. Sometimes we're creating the objections that aren't there. Okay. And so even when someone says something, you jump in and you say something that's totally irrelevant, like you totally missed what they were saying or what they meant because you're so busy trying to figure out what your response is and what your close is. And imagine I've spent some good money on scripts. Okay, but going back to the being present part and really and truly listening
Mm-hmm.
to hear where a person is and what is it that they need, and you make it less and less about you, me, right, and more about them. That's where the true magic happens. And I
Absolutely.
think for me, once I really got that and I let go once again of that pressure, things became a whole lot easier. And with the practice, drill, and rehearse, once again, you do these things, you present, you have your conversations in the right way. The first thing is going to happen, you're going to attract your divine clients. So
Absolutely.
they're going to gravitate towards you. And there's a thing that I now say, we've been taught that we have to go out there and find our people. We don't have to find our people. All we have to do is show up so our people could find us. All we have to do is show up so we could start to attract our people to
Yes.
us.
Well,
So when
the
you
people you're looking for are actually looking.
yeah, they're out there looking for you. That's the big difference. They're actually out there looking for the solution, looking for the person, right? To get them to where they want to be. But here's the thing, once you tell yourself you're afraid to speak, you can't speak, you don't want to speak, whatever it is you tell yourself, then what you do is a disservice to yourself because you never give yourself the opportunity to find your people, and then you do a disservice to your people, right? Because they don't find you.
And they don't get to experience your brilliance, right?
Exactly.
And it's a big difference.
Yeah.
I know for myself, oftentimes people will say your sales process is so laid back. It's like, it's so laid back. And a lot of times, partly because the connection is so well, like it
Yeah.
happens.
But that's where
And
we all want to be though.
right, because I don't want to have someone feel sold.
Yeah.
I want to have someone feel enrolled in what's possible, served, and inspired. And when someone takes inspired action, they are so excited. And so for me, when I get on a discovery call or I go through a sales process, I am listening like if my life depends on it.
Yeah.
Because I know that if I listen, they will tell me where to go in the conversation. They will tell me what they need. I will be queued up as to what to say. I'll know how to create a connection. And when I make that connection, that is all about possibility for them. Oftentimes people are like, so what do we do now?
Yeah.
How do we get started? What's next? I'm so excited. And I tell people what I'm listening for is when they pick up the paintbrush, and I say it all the time, when they pick up the paintbrush and they start painting an image of what is possible for them in the future,
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
it's really around, okay, so let me tell you how we do this together.
Yeah. And being able to do that makes all the difference in the world, because I remember the times when, I had the clients that it felt like I was pulling teeth,
Hmm.
right? Like I shouldn't have to feel like I'm fighting,
Yeah.
or I'm trying to convince you of something.
Or I'm trying to
Okay?
outsmart you,
Yeah,
or
it's
yeah.
it's all about, okay, where are we going and how we're going to get this done, okay? And they're excited about their journey. I'm excited, to be a part of their journey. That's like how I look at it. Like, oh my gosh, I actually have the opportunity, to serve here, and I'm blessed to be a part of this. It's like a totally different feeling, just being able to operate like that
Mhm.
versus you having to feel like you have to fight. Like nobody wants to get up every day, like going to war and feeling like you have to fight. That's not what
Yeah.
that's not what I desire. No.
So for someone who is listening, and they are, you know what, I'm really nervous about doing this. Um, and they're attempting to convince themselves that they can grow a massive business without taking on this skill. What do you have to say to them?
Oh my gosh. It's not possible. It's a massive business. That's the word. That's the operative word, right? Communication is everything.
Yeah.
It's everything. And I just have to say, to our super achievers out there, if they have not had the opportunity to go back and listen to Unstoppable Mindset episode last week, that you did on communication, go back and listen to it, right? Because it's so much more than what we say
Hmm.
out of our mouth. And I think that that's one of the things, like I had to also get present to. So communication is the whole entire package,
Yeah.
right? And so exactly what is it that you are communicating? And when you communicate, do you communicate in a way, I got to use my word, that you shine? And then when you shine, you attract your divine clients, to you. Okay. So
Oh,
if you
well said.
want to be up to big things, definitely communication is the key.
It is. It's, it is. And when you meet anyone who is having success and you listen to their command of the language, you watch how they enroll and their ability to move a room and to close a sale. I remember watching one person close a sale, and I was like, how did that, how did that happen? Right. And I was one of the people going, I'm in. And I was just like, whoa, I don't
Mhm.
even know. I was just like, this is going to be so much fun. Hold out my credit card. Here you go. And I remember saying, I want to do that.
Mhm.
I want to do
Yeah.
that. It was such an inspired process. So, all right. So for everyone that's listening, what we're going to do for you today is, of course, we always have in the outline for tonight's call, we always have our free gift, which is the Mindset Mastery mini course. So that is totally available to you. But for those of you that are really interested in just bringing your game to another level, I'm gonna ask you to reach out to us. We're gonna put a link in the comments section, and we're going to invite you to sit down. And I'm gonna say Taria and I,
Yes.
and we're gonna talk about speaking from the stage, from a sales process, and from your social media in
Yeah.
terms of, because it's all communication. It's written, it's oral, and how you can move people. So you'll get both of us for about 20 to 30 minutes. So definitely, if that is you, put your name in the comment section, register for some time with us, and we will be happy to continue this dialogue with you. Sharia, as usual, it was a blast. Thank you
Yes.
so much. And everyone that's listening, you have been listening to Unstoppable Mindset. My guest tonight was social media strategist Taria Hodge. My name is Suzanne Hart. As we sign off, please let us know what you're taking away and what's one thing that you're going to do different this week. So definitely comment. Also, please share this live. Share it with a friend. Share it on your page. Share it with someone who's like, you're like, ooh, you got to listen to this. We both have to bring our communication to the next level. Remember to like. And if you are not part of our community, you want to knock on the door
Yes.
to Unstoppable Mindset for Super Achievers. That's our Facebook group. We will definitely let you in, because this is where we have a totally different level of these conversations. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. And this is why we do this, because we both know that you're special. We both know how brilliant you are. And I want to remind you that the world is waiting for you to have your courage to speak and put your gift into the marketplace. Blessings, take care, and we'll see you back here 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time next Thursday.